Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising books, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, as well as other fun, informative global cruise personalities. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests. If you hear about a cruise that interests you, book it at www.thejoyofvacation.com or enter to win a free cruise for two. Again, www.thejoyofvacation.com. We really appreciate your feedback, so leave us a text. Paul can't reply, but he may read your text on the air.
Hello, passionate cruisers. This is Paul, and this week on the Joy of Cruising podcast, I am delighted to welcome Cheryl Cooper, creator of the SIG, the Solo Cruiser YouTube channel, Instagram, and website. As frequent listeners know, I watch cruise YouTube videos incessantly as I work on the podcast seemingly every working hour. Cheryl has carved out a solid niche as a specialist in solo cruising with high-quality content and reviews from a solo cruising perspective of a diverse array of cruise lines and cruise ships, many that I have sailed or plan to sail. Accordingly, her channel is on repeat in my podcast studio. While I've never done a solo cruise, I can confidently state that if I were considering a solo cruise, SIG the Solo Cruiser platforms would be my first stop when starting my research process. From SIG the Solo Cruiser, welcome to my world of solo cruise travel. With over 50 cruises, 43 solo cruises across 11 different cruise lines under my belt, I am here to share my tips, tricks, and personal experiences to help you confidently navigate the world of solo cruise travel. On this channel, you'll see my solo cruise experience and find advice and tips on solo cruising and cruising solo as an introvert. My goal is to empower you to make the best decision for your solo travel adventures, whether it's your first trip or your next unforgettable journey. As a travel agent, I'm here to guide you through every step of the process, from choosing the perfect cruise to booking and customizing your experience. We are friends and followers on social media, and she even has being an introvert as part of her brand. Many of you have heard me refer to myself as an off-the-charts introvert. So I've long planned to invite Cheryl on the Joy of Cruising podcast. Then she posted her latest set of solo travel videos, and they were about her recent solo cruise experience on Explorer Journeys. Well, as this episode airs, I am on board my first luxury cruise experience on Explorer One. So I decided to jump the line and welcome Cheryl on the Joy of Cruising podcast now, and I am so pleased she was agreeable. Welcome, Cheryl, SIG the Solo Cruiser, to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am so excited about this opportunity.
It is great to meet you virtually. How you doing?
I am doing great. It's a great Sunday. Sitting here doing some editing, but it's great. Yes,
always editing.
Yes, always editing. So
I can't tell you how much editing I'm doing right now, given that I leave on a cruise in a few days, and during that time I'm on a cruise, I think I have 4 podcasts coming out, so I'm a little backed up trying to get some work done before I leave. So thank you for coming on. Give us some background. Where you're from, where do you live now, or anything you are willing to share with the cruising community.
Okay, all right. Well, a little background of where I'm from. I am originally from St. Louis, Missouri. So that's where I was born and raised. And from there, I have lived in places such as Cleveland, Ohio, Akron, Ohio, Cincinnati, Macon, Georgia, McDonough, Georgia, where I still live now.
Okay.
But I am also right now I'm in Hollywood, Florida. So so I lived a few places, but originally from St. Louis, Missouri.
So you're in Hollywood. You sound like you're between cruises.
Well, I am. I'm always between cruises because there's always I always have cruises on the books. Right now, I am looking into 2027 right now. But yeah, always between cruises, and that's one of the advantages of staying here in Hollywood, Florida. I've learned to. I usually book a year or two out in advance, but now I'm learning to leave my schedule open a little bit so that I can catch, some last minute cruise deals or something. So yeah.
I'm not going to lie, we have been friends for more than a minute, and I actually thought SIG was your nickname, even though it's explained right there in your profile. Tell our listeners what the acronym means and talk about it.
Yes. So when I started my channel, I was trying to think of what my focus would be. I knew it would be solo cruising, but also I'm a bit of an introvert. I was more of an introvert when I started, but vlogging brings a little bit of that out of you. So it was solo, introvert, and gluten-free cruising. Gluten-free, I became gluten intolerant. Well, I was diagnosed with gluten intolerance around 2010. I lived a gluten-free lifestyle, and that changed with cruising too, because I had completed cruises or done cruises before without being gluten intolerant. So now that was a difference for me. So that was a focus. So SIG stands for solo, introvert, and gluten-free. And that's what the channel's focus is about. Yes.
Well, the introvert part certainly caught my attention. I am an introvert, and cruising is actually, sort of my release. It allows me to operate comfortably in public. You don't come across as an introvert, so you're one of those introverts that does a good job of playing an extrovert.
No, honestly, I'm not. I think, as a vlogger, I mean, you have to be, engaging and interesting for the camera to show. Nobody wants to see, me, just sitting in my room all the time. Or so it's like you have to, even as an introvert vlogger, it's like really you're by yourself, you're talking to the camera, but it's not like you're in a room full of people and talking and performing. So it's easier to engage with the camera. And then also, but another thing with cruising, especially solo cruising, when you're sitting somewhere by yourself, especially if you're like at a bar or dining by yourself and people notice this, they will come up to you and start conversations and get you involved. So that's another way that, over time that can make you less of an introvert. But yes, when I'm on ships truly sailing by myself and nobody knows me, yes, I'm an introvert. I'm staying to myself. I'm sitting in the back, of, the entertainment venues, watching everything, getting up to leave. And, I'm just comfortable, like in my own company, but yeah, I think it's the camera and the vlogging that makes it appear that, we introverts are maybe more extroverted than we actually are.
Right, right, yes. Yeah, I couldn't be a vlogger because, for me, my ideal setting on a cruise ship is laying on
Yeah.
a lounger, looking out at the ocean.
Yeah.
And that's it. That doesn't make for very exciting vlogs.
Right, exactly. And that's what I used to do before I started vlogging. And then I started vlogging about me. And then it was more or less, okay, what can I show you, especially for first time cruisers. So they don't want to see me, every day just, lounging in my room or on the deck or, and that's it.
So you have been on a lot of cruises. We'll chat about that. But uh, I like to ask guests, about their latest cruise. Give us the glorious details of your most recent cruise, Explorer One.
I would say glorious indeed. It's funny, it's like almost every new cruise line that I've been on over the past couple of years, every time I get off, I'm like, oh, this is the best experience ever. But I would say Explorer One, that was truly like the best experience ever. And especially, as I said, well, you and I, we're introverts. So a lot of cruise ships, now today, I mean, they're going for all of this, these activities, these entertainment, rock climbing, bumper cars, and roller coasters, and all these game shows, quests, all this stuff, it's like loud noise to us. Explora is the opposite of that. I mean, they still have engaging activities, but it's like the spaces around the ship. First of all, the ships are just absolutely beautiful. Well, the ship that I was on was absolutely beautiful. The spaces are just inviting. It's like inviting you to come here and relax. And because they don't fill their ships to capacity, it's like everywhere you go, it's I mean, you have space to just sit down and relax, enjoy the ocean, and which is what their focus is. Their motto is an ocean state of mind. So
Hmm.
they want to provide a home away from home, so you can get out and enjoy, the ocean, whether you're into wellness, even if you're into meeting people, if you want entertainment, they do have that. They have great food. The food is just, I mean, especially what people would call the buffet. I mean, to me, that is just an open restaurant because the food is restaurant quality. There was nothing that I had on the ship that I could say, that I didn't even partly care for. Everything was great. So there's so much that I can say about that experience. That was absolutely one of the best experiences that I've had sailing.
Yeah, among other things, such as the food,
Hmm.
one of the big appeals to me for Explorer is it seems like an introvert's paradise. I mean, it has cabanas that you can
Yes.
you don't have to rent. I mean, I've seen
Hmm.
similar cabanas on other ships cost $400 a day,
Right, exactly.
and I could just get in one of those cabanas and just not move for
Yes.
hours. So
Yes.
so uh so yeah, start from the start from the beginning. So walk us through from the embarkation process. I mean, I know we have to talk about other things,
Mhm.
but as you might imagine, I am kind of ultra focused
Yes.
on Explorer right now. For the audience, I think I
Mhm.
mentioned this in the introduction, but I'll be on Explorer in about five
Okay.
days. So
Oh,
uh,
yes. You
maybe no, maybe I guess I'm headed to Florida in
okay.
5 days. I'll be on the Explorer actually a week from today.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so 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 I'm like a little kid at Christmas right now. So start with embarkation.
Embarkation. Well, first of all, I have to ask you now, you've done all of your pre-cruise setup, right? Because with an Explorer, you can go online and set your preferences for your room, how you want your pillows, your bedding. You have your choice of welcome wine and your spirit. So I hope that you've done that, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've done that, and I tell you, this is my first luxury
Uh-huh.
cruise, and I tell you, I felt so
Hmm.
special when I was doing that. I guess I ordered Buffalo Trace
Uh-huh.
bourbon, and I ordered some white wine, and so I kind of expected, I
Yeah.
kind of knew about the part where I had to give my
Mhm.
spirits preferences, but then they asked me
Yes.
about pillows. Then they asked me about the do I want my
Uh-huh.
bed firm or flexible? I mean, I was like blown
Yes.
away. And I'll tell you, when I hung up the phone for just a split second, I imagine what it must be like to be a celebrity.
Yes, and that was nice. And then even though you've already made those preferences, when you get to your cabin, I'll go back to embarkation, but when you get to your cabin, it still feels like such a surprise because you don't get that, on other ships. It's like, oh wow, it's still surprising. But going back to embarkation, um, well, first they, provided me with a check-in window. And so when I went, my check-in window was 12 to 2. I got there about 12:30, and it was like I just walked right. There was no line or anything. I just walked right in. It's the same as the other ships where you have a check-in station and then you go through the security process. But after that point, it's like you're escorted to the waiting area to, sit and wait for, your time to board. Then they gather you by escort and escort you to the next set of tables where get your room card and internet instructions, and you put down um your payment form, for your account, and then you're escorted to board the ship. So, and it wasn't a long waiting process or waiting time or anything, but it was just that everything was done by escort, that really, made the difference. Again, no crowds. And it was just a relaxing process because there was no crowds, no pushing, no, people trying to, get ahead of you and do all of this or that. It was a relaxing process. So
I know that prior to boarding, you had done, a lot of research. Just knowing about you, I suspect you had done a lot of research. Yet, when you walked into your cabin, were you surprised by anything?
yes, I mean it's one thing to see pictures of the cabin or even, other vlogs where they're giving you a cabin tour. It's a different thing to see it and experience it for yourself because once you walk in, I don't know, it overtakes you, and it does. It feels like they set it up to feel like a residence, and that's exactly, what it feels like. It feels like a luxury hotel room, um, like an all inclusive resort. That's what I equated to. It had that feeling to it, even down to like the bookshelves in the room. I mean, with actual books, that you could pull down and read if you were interested in those topics. With the sofa there, and I mean, it really does feel like an all-inclusive luxury hotel room, or even, I can imagine this being, a room at home or something. It has that feeling. So yeah, even though you see it, pictures and other people's vlogs, it's a different experience when you're actually there. So
The balcony looks larger than any balcony that I've stayed on. Is it truly that large? I mean, it has room for a sofa bed.
yeah, now they call it a terrace, and it's larger than balconies on the regular ships. Now, the one that I had, even though it was large, mine was the smallest. So you can imagine being in, other suites, larger suites. But yes, even with it being the smallest, there was enough for a full size table and chairs, and their cushions. And when I say a full size table, I would say it's like the table in one of the buffets, the dining rooms, where, if you're sitting at a table for two, and I had enough space to put my breakfast tray and push it aside and still have room,
Hmm.
for any, if I were reading a book or something, or had an iPad, I still had room to, put it there right in front of me. So it was a normal size, like dining room table. Plus, the chairs, they were comfortable. They had cushions, plus the chains on the side. If you ever have, a cabin with on a regular ship that has, a loungers, it's going to be one of those slim little loungers that's up on the deck. No, this was
Right.
this was a full size cushioned chaise.
I called it. I guess I probably overstated. I call it a sofa bed,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's
yeah. Well, I mean, you could because well for me it was enough. I was able to lay out there and grab some towels and take a nap out there. I did that twice, so and at one point I was out there and I woke up and it was 4 a.m. So
Wow.
that's how comfortable it is. Yes.
Did you have any room service meals out there?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the blog tomorrow, or I'm sorry, later today. Well, it'll be out by hopefully by then. But yes, I did breakfast for room service for breakfast. Yeah, a couple of times. I didn't do dinner only because there were so many other options, and I wanted to make sure that I, like tried all of the dining options. But that's one thing that I'm mentioning in today's blog about, room service on the other ships. Service has deteriorated so much to where you can barely get like even the continental breakfast anymore, and everything is a charge. Well, of course, on Explorer, not only is it included, but this is like you can get a full breakfast or it's a full breakfast menu, or even lunch or dinner. You can get, I mean, you have dinner options, not just one choice, but full dinner options that you can have, for in-suite dining, and of course it's all included, so it's just a nice touch to, have that option, especially because you have such a beautiful suite, you have a beautiful terrace. So if you don't feel like getting up to, get dressed and go to dinner, or not even that you don't feel like it, but you just want to enjoy that time, to yourself, especially as introverts, you can enjoy, a full, I would say you can enjoy a dinner the same as you would experience it in a restaurant, but in your suite, you know.
We rarely order room service
Hmm.
on traditional ships, but I plan to test out test
Yes.
out what it's like to sit on your terrace and have lobster.
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely do that. I mean, and that's something I wish I would have done, but of course, I do plan to go back. So next time I go back, I'm going to do all the things that I didn't do the first time. And that's going to be it, have dinner on my terrace.
So what's anything else on your cabin you want to talk about?
Ah, anything on the cabin? Well, of course. Well, I'm sure if I'm sure you've done your research too. But one thing I really loved,
Hey,
was those.
Hey, Cheryl, let me interrupt. Yeah,
Yes.
I've done my research and I'm doing some more right now.
Okay. Okay. Well, one thing I loved was the heated marble floors in the bathroom. First of all, I just love the bathroom, period.
Uh-huh.
But the heated marble floors. Now, even though, you think, hey, I'm going to the Caribbean, it's warm. Why would I want heated marble floors? But if you like to keep your room cool, and I like to keep my room on the cooler side, first of all, there the AC system in the rooms, oh, you can keep it as cold. I mean, you can keep it freezing cold. But if you keep it on the cooler side, and then like getting up in the morning and the floors are heated, and just walking onto it just feels so good. Not having the floor that is ice cold. And it's not like the floor gets, like piping hot or anything, but it keeps it at a, just a warm temperature. So it's just that's a nice touch. That's one thing that I really loved about it.
Is that like on a timer or just on and off switch?
I thought it might be a timer, but actually accidentally left it on. And when I got up in the morning, it was still on and it was still like warm. But like I said, it doesn't get hot. It just like keeps it at, it feels like an even temperature. But you have a setting on it. You can turn, there's an on and off, switch, and then you have a setting on, minimum, maximum, how warm you want it to get. But I kept it on maximum, And usually if something's not supposed to be on, the room attendant, they'll turn it off. They left it on. So yeah.
How was your room attendant, and
Oh, the
how
room.
often did they come?
Yeah, so the room attendant, he came, his name, oh, I forgot his name already, but he came twice a day. And what was surprising was that the first day, usually the first day you meet your room attendant, you tell them, what time you want service, anything you want for your room. Well, the things that I normally ask for in my room were already there. I had plenty of hangers. My bed was soft. I had a robe and slippers. So those are the usual things that I asked for. But he came in, he asked, hey, he said, hey, can I give you a room tour? I'm like, sure. So he came in and just pointed out all of the features, of the room, and some things that I didn't know about that I hadn't even looked into. There was like a large cabinet that I hadn't even looked into yet, but it's your espresso and tea station. In the room you have your wine and water glasses, juice glasses, your tea sets, and your coffee espresso maker, which I did use. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, so and then of course you have your mini fridge, which is stocked with whatever you want. Now I heard that if you drink those, they will be replenished.
What was your first stop after the cabin? And for the listeners, we're not going to go through every single day,
Yes.
because believe me, I could, but we're not going to force you to listen to Cheryl and I talk about every single minute that she was on Explorer.
Well,
But I am interested.
okay.
What was your first stop after the cabin?
I was gonna say, but I will say for all of the details, because I went through all of the details of every day on my vlog. So if they're interested in that, they can check that out there. But so after the cabin, then I really just started, just exploring the ship. And just to see, I went through, most of the decks, looked through the app to see what was going on. And oh goodness, I remember like going through the decks, especially the conservatory, which is the main pool deck. But it's amazing to me not only how beautiful it is, but it's so quiet, and I have never seen it full. Even on sea days, I mean, yes, I've seen it busier, but I've never seen it where I couldn't go down and find a lounger or an available seat, to relax there. So to me that's almost the most beautiful area of the ship and the most relaxing. I was able to spend time one morning uh at 10 a.m. in the conservatory pool, and I was just by myself. I was in that area by myself. Now it was a port day, but still on other ships on a port day, you're still going to have people, at the pool. I was there by myself. It was just so surprising and relaxing, and the pools are heated. It was just what I found out. The pools are heated, and some too. They're not all heated to the same degree. The conservatory pool is warm. Some of the other pools they're warm, but less warm than the conservatory pool. And there was one pool, I think it was the Helios pool, that was a little bit on the cooler side. So they have their different temperatures. Of course, I went to the Emporium Marketplace, and like I said, that place is like an open restaurant. And oh goodness, the table service. First of all, there are different they call it a food hall. So there are different food stations, and you can go up to the station, but there's usually a server there who's going to take your order. And they have items on display of what's there at that station. You place your order. You can either go to another station to get something, to order something else. You can go find a table, which the tables were always plentiful. They're already set up for dining. There was never a time where I went to the marketplace and it was full and I couldn't find a seat, so
Now, listeners, when you hear Cheryl referring to the marketplace or the Emporium, that is explorers, or the closest thing akin to the buffet
Mhm.
on other ships, but you really feel you're sliding the
Yeah.
line by calling it a buffet.
Yes, yeah. I would not call it a buffet. To me, a buffet, even after the experience, I see they don't want you to call it a buffet, but after the experience, I wouldn't call it a buffet. The closest thing that I could call it that that it's like to me is the Virgin Voyages galley, but I would say this is on a much higher level. It's a much a more enhanced experience. And the food is just it's to me more elevated, than not to slight because I enjoy Virgin Voyages as well. So it's not a slight to Virgin Voyages. It's just a different level of experience.
As you can guess, I could talk to you all day about Explorer, but we have to leave room for your specialty, which is solo cruising. But just before we get off of Explorer, give us one or two highlights. Well, first of all, I never asked you this. What was your itinerary? And then give us a couple of highlights from the cruise, and then we'll talk about your solo cruising background, and we may come back to Explorer.
Okay, well, I was on a 7 day, it was a Caribbean itinerary to Costa Maya, Cozumel, Key West, and Belize City.
Okay,
So, on two of those experiences, on two of those ports, Costa Maya and Belize City, I did what they call what are excursions, ship excursions, but they call those experience journeys. So, I would say one thing that I noticed, it was similar. What I thought was like similar experiences or shore excursions that I saw on other cruise lines, but they're priced much higher. So I said, well, I still want to see. Let me go on one of these. Well, I did too, to see what the differences are, and there is a difference. I would say on the excursion that I did, it was like this. It was in uh Costa Maya, and it was like making salsa and salsa dancing. So I've seen those excursions before on other lines, but I would say to me it looked like a more elevated experience. The It was more hands-on, more enhanced experience. They also gave it was like a uh, kind of like a class, a beverage class on different tequilas. So that was added in. And of course, the salsa dancing, which I just filmed. I'm not a dancer. But it was a more engaging experience. And then we went to the beach, and there was like a private area, for us, on the excursion. So it wasn't, just dropping you off at the beach and you're there for, some time and then come back. And then, of course, the transportation that they had, it was a full-size motor coach, so very comfortable, air conditioned. So I would say it was a more elevated experience than something on other ships. So somebody might see, especially if they're coming from the mainstream cruise lines and saying, "Oh man, that's the same experience, but almost double the price." But it is a more enhanced experience. That was my experience to
sure.
me. So we visited those four ports, and I would say the highlights. That excursion to me was a highlight. The one that I did in Costa Maya, of course, I'll have that in a couple of weeks from now. And shipboard experience, I would say the solo meetup was actually fun. Now, I would say the crowd on the ship, it is a little bit older, but I'm older. So to me, I was comfortable, with everyone else on the ship. Now you did still have a mix. There were some younger, I would say maybe early 30s, early 30s all the way up through, well, as older, like maybe probably 80s or something like that. but it was mostly on the older side. I would say about maybe 50s to 60s, I would say. And that's to me, that's my age range. So it was there was we had a solo meetup. They have a full solo program, and it was nice because it was older ladies, but they were so engaging and a lot of fun. And you would think older ladies, they're just going to want to, like do an activity or something and go to bed at 9. No. These ladies were up and active, and they were asking, "Hey, what are you doing next? What are you doing next?" And they were up 11, 12. They were up. I think I went to bed before they did. So it was engaging, to find other solos, especially on, a luxury ship. I really didn't expect that. So that was a highlight as well.
Let me jump in. Do you know, Cheryl, how many were on your sailing?
I don't know how many solos there were on my sailing, but
Not
uh,
not
oh,
solos, total.
oh, yes, yes. Now the ship holds 992. We had 750
Okay,
on our sailing. And
okay.
from what I was told, right now they do not fill their ships, to capacity, in any sailing, because they want people to have the experience that I had. Like, it's open. It's, there's no crowds, and that's a nice feeling. To me, that's worth it. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Give us another highlight. Give us your favorite restaurant highlight. Besides, we've heard about
Oh,
Emporium,
goodness.
and we may come back and hear about all of the restaurants. But what was your what stood out for you?
I would say, I think it was called Sakura.
Uh-huh.
Sakura, the Asian restaurant. And uh, first of all, I mean, the restaurant is just absolutely beautiful. Well, then all of the spaces, all of the spaces in all of the restaurants, everything was, just absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. But the decor there was great. And I'm trying to remember, I can't even remember what I had. I got to go back and look, but I just remember it's just being, so I think I had scallops there. I think that's the place that oh yeah. Yeah, I did. I had scallops, and there was a lobster pad thai. So yeah, pad thai. And oh, it was like two separate entrees, and I didn't want a full entree of each because I said, I know I'm not going to eat that much. I don't want to waste food. And they modified it to where, I had the scallops and then maybe just a half serving of the lobster pad thai. So that was so good. Yeah.
Wow, I can't wait. Now I just went on Holland America for the first time,
Okay. Yeah.
and I know that they have tamarind, which I have heard so much
Uh-huh.
about. So
Okay.
so I made sure to try tamarind, and I'm looking forward to comparing it for the listeners. Tamarind is like a Pan Asian
Uh-huh.
eatery, and so I'm looking forward to comparing it to Sakura, which is also kind
Hmm.
of a Asian
Yes. Pan
inspired
Asian as
eatery.
well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Uh-huh. Have you been to Tamarind?
No, I have not. I did I sailed Holland America for the first time last November, but I no, I did not go there. So yeah.
Okay. Let's shift gears.
Okay.
Let's go way back, Cheryl. I
All right.
always ask guests to recollect their first cruise.
Mhm.
So for you, when, what ship, and what were your initial impressions of cruising?
Well, my very first cruise was with my family, my mother and my sister, and this was back in 2001 on Royal Caribbean Majesty of the Seas, which is no longer with us. And my first impression of cruising was that I was not impressed at all. As a matter of fact, I remember, and this is back in 2001. So cruising back then is not as it is today. So, and being the age I was, I just remember being bored, and So it wasn't anything that I was looking forward to going back to. It was like, okay, did that done. I wasn't excited about doing it again. And then my next cruising experience was with a group of friends on Carnival Sensation. So that was my first Carnival ship. And to me, once again, I wasn't impressed because I didn't know what cruising was about. So it was like I was trying to hang out with, the friends instead of, really trying to enjoy the ship. So that was another experience where, I just didn't think much about cruising. So the next time that I went cruising, I went solo. And that was 8 years later. So it's like 8 years between cruises, So that was 2016. That's when I discovered, cruising. And because I was by myself, I thought I was just going to be in my room. I was really stressed out from working, and I said, I need a vacation where I just want to be by myself. And just, I thought I'll get in this, I got a 4-day cruise, and I thought that was going to be too long, because but when I went with my friends on a 4-day cruise by day 3, we were ready to go. So I said, but I couldn't find a 3-day cruise that fit what I wanted. So I went on this 4-day cruise thinking I was going to be in my room, and I had a ball, because I really got out and, participated in the activities. I saw what was going on, and I hadn't done that before, on the other cruises. So I really got involved. I dined, by myself, and, I just had a great time. And from there, I started doing 4 to 5 cruises a year.
Did you say now? I know the first one was Royal, the second one was Carnival Sensation.
Mhm.
Did you say what was the third one? The one that finally grabbed you?
That was the Carnival Valor.
Carnival Valley. Okay.
Carnival Valor. And I ended up doing 25 straight Carnival cruises before I tried anything else.
Wow. So you
Yeah.
you you became for a minute. You became not a minute, longer than a minute. You became a
Yeah.
Carnival convert.
Yes. And I would say actually that was mainly due to my gluten sensitivity issue because
Okay.
Carnival does well with gluten sensitivity and for changing recipes or changing entrees to modify it to be gluten free. They did that better than the other cruise lines from what I saw because at the time I could only go on vloggers experiences, and there were vloggers getting on, other ships. I'm not going to call out the cruise lines, but they were calling out other cruise lines saying they had a horrible time because they couldn't have anything good to eat, or they were eating the same thing over and over. So, but on Carnival, I had variety. So, yeah, so I did Carnival like 25 straight cruises, and
Wow.
then now today, gluten-free, you see it everywhere now. On land, you see it in restaurants. There are menus that are marked gluten-free. The cruise lines, most of them are falling in line to where, they will mark their menus and they can modify things for gluten-free. So I felt comfortable to go ahead and try different lines, and it's been a great experience, in doing so.
Now, are you still a Carnival sailor?
I still like Carnival. I just haven't sailed them well, no, I sailed in January of 2024 because I had a solo group cruise. Um, but I went from sailing, yeah, all 25 straight to I don't have a Carnival cruise booked right now. And I've only had one in the past. No, I've had one a year because prior to that, I did the celebration. I did the inaugural for the celebration. So, I mean, I still love Carnival, but in trying other ships, cruise lines, I mean, there are a lot of options out
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and I think it's good to, try different ships to see what's available, to see the different experiences. And even though I'm sailing Carnival less now, it doesn't mean that I don't like them or I like them less, but there are just so many more ships. And then there are so many more ships that I have not sailed that I would like to
Sure.
sail.
Yeah, I started off similar to you. My first
Mhm,
cruise was on a Royal Caribbean ship, and
mhm,
then I went on a string of carnival ships, not
Hmm.
25 like you, but a lot in a row. But really, it was about economics.
Uh-huh.
At the time, that's what I could afford. Carnival
Uh-huh.
had a kind of a reputation of being a low cost line,
Hmm.
and I had two young daughters, and so I took
Yeah.
them on a series of carnivals, and then my grandchildren on a series
Hmm.
of carnival ships. Although I well, it's not recent anymore. I did try one in their newest class, a sister ship to. You said you tried the celebration. I went on Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras.
And
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I had, I knew as soon as Mardi Gras was announced, I had to go on that for the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
and but then we had COVID, and so
Mhm.
my time on that roller coaster was deferred for a couple of years. But uh,
Okay.
but yeah, I find I think it's called the XL class. Yeah,
Right.
I like it a lot, and I got to get back to Carnival, but kind of like you, there's so many lines out there,
Yes.
and I'm a little older than you, and I'm seriously into the bucket list checking off
Okay.
time period of my life. So
Okay.
Carnival's got to wait, got to wait in line.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's interesting that I used to do, and I still informally do. I used to do a tally of guests, and how they enjoyed their first experience, and easily 90% of cruisers get hooked on their first cruise.
Mhm.
You're that 1 out of 10 that it had to grow on you. So it's I ask that question almost well, really every podcast, and rarely, but occasionally I do hear of people where it just had you just had to find that right situation. I'm
Mhm.
I'm glad you found it because you have since given a lot of money to the cruise lines and
Yes, I have.
given a lot of information to the cruise community. So I'm
Uh-huh.
glad that you found your niche. So say something about I know you have a gluten free in your name, and you talked a little bit about
Mhm.
it. Uh, for the people who are listening who are in the gluten free category or gluten intolerant or whatever the right phrase is, say a little more
Mhm.
about what your channel and platforms do with regard to, what can listeners expect from your platforms with respect to gluten free eating.
Yeah, so with that, and I do get questions because there are people who, have concerns, about being gluten intolerant and about being celiac. For one thing, I make sure, to point out that, I acquired or I became gluten intolerant, somewhere in my lifetime. So I wasn't born, celiac. So I make that distinction because celiac to me is something much more serious. So, and I don't want to, in case I'm doing something, I don't want to provide advice to where it would be, harmful for someone who is celiac. So I make that distinction. But I do share, I want to share, like the practices for someone who has, gluten sensitivity, what they can do as far as, about contacting the staff, the procedures, making sure if you're working with a travel advisor that you they put that in your notes. And then even with them putting it in your notes, making sure that, you let your server know, each and every time. A lot of times for people with gluten sensitivity or people with food allergies, it may be best for them to have, a certain dining time so they're working with the same server all the time so that server can get used to that server will know, what their sensitivities are and can cater to them each night. Whereas, me, I'm more in control of it now. So I'm okay with, going to anytime dining and having a different server all the time. And now I'm getting to the point where I don't even notify them that, I have gluten sensitivity because I know what I can order and things are, marked for gluten sensitivity now. And that didn't used to be the case. But those are the things that I want to share with those who have gluten sensitivity. But not only that, for now, I'm getting into all food allergies because I'm getting, a lot of questions about, other allergies and as well as vegetarian and vegan.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so now I'm trying to focus on that more, when I go dining on ships to see what the options are so I can share that with them. So
Now that brings up a point, and I said we'd come back to Explorer. I just found a reason to come
mhm.
back to Explorer. So again, for the listeners who might be vegetarian or vegan, what's your sense of Explorer's food choices with respect to vegetarian and vegan meals?
Yeah, I would say they first of all in the marketplace they don't have things labeled whether they're in any type of food allergy, so they don't have them labeled. But you can talk to a server who can point you in the right directions. So it's not as easily identifiable to me to say as on other ships. Other ships may have labels as to what's vegan or vegetarian. Now, I will say in their restaurants, in their menus, they do have things labeled. They call it, well, plant-based. So I'm not, I'm not into it deep enough to know the difference between, okay, plant-based, what does that mean for vegetarian or vegan? But they have things labeled, as such. And even with that on the menus, I did see a number of things labeled, but as far as like how much a variety that is for, a person who eats plant-based, if that's, vegan or vegetarian, I'm not sure if that's enough of it. I'm not saying it is or isn't, but I do see options, but I can't like gauge, okay, is it plentiful? Is it enough options for a person? Or if it's not, to me, that's something that needs to be explored a little more. But I know they do have those options available.
Last question about food health. For my own edification, differentiate between celiac and gluten
Yeah,
intolerant.
so celiac is someone is born with this, this gluten intolerance. So I believe it's something I don't want to get too scientific, but it's something that they are born with. So it's something they're going to have for the rest of their lives. For me, what we would call, I'm what you would call NCGS or non-celiac gluten sensitive. Uh, Means that
Okay.
at some point in my life, like I said, it wasn't until 2010 that I was diagnosed with, gluten sensitivity. So, to where suddenly my body went through a change or my immune system or my gut went through a change to where it's unable to break down those proteins, so the gluten proteins. So and this could be for a variety of reasons. So there's not like one reason why a person becomes gluten insensitive. Some people can become gluten insensitive for a short period of time, do some gut healing or something, and reintroduce, gluten. Maybe they can tolerate a little at a time, or just a certain level, and then everybody's different. So it's not like one um, condition or one thing that you can say, definitely a person, with who's gluten sensitive, this is what's going to happen, this is what they're going to experience, this is the symptoms they're going to have. Everything's different. So, and it's like the cause again is unknown. So I'm at a period where, like I said, I was became aware of it in 2010. But over time, I've done so many things. I've done a lot of research and so many things to try to heal my body to where now I feel myself being less sensitive, even though I'm still sensitive, but it's much less than before. So, so yeah, it's one of those things that, even going to doctors, they can't tell you, 100% exactly, you know, uh, what's going to happen or what you need to do or things like that. It's one of those things now where you have to just listen to your body, change your diet, avoid the things that harm you or bother you, and just live a healthier lifestyle, basically.
We talked about two components of your brand, the
Hmm.
introverted and gluten sensitive. The other part, of course, is S for
Yes.
solo. So let's talk. Well, before we talk about that, let me just ask. You go on some amazing cruises. Do you have a favorite cruise line or cruise ship?
Well, now
Well, that's music to my ears.
Now, I would say, honestly, yes. If I could sail, Explorer 4 or 5 times a year, I would. But I can't do that. So, but yes, but it will be on my list. I am booked on it again. I would say that's a favorite for me. Um, but also I would say that I would still want to mix in other cruise lines. And the ones that I would
Sure.
mix in, Celebrity. Celebrity, before Explorer, I would have said Celebrity was my number one. And then also I enjoy Virgin as well. Virgin being a ship with, no kids. To me, Virgin has a I would say a quiet side to it. Now, when you watch all of the vlogs, it's all about the parties, but they have a whole nother life. It's a Virgin is also into wellness and fitness and things like that. They have like the different classes, yoga, meditation, a focus on healthy eating. So I enjoy Virgin, for that as well. So those will be my top three. I would say Explore Journeys, Celebrity, and Virgin Voyages. Now, I still like Carnival, but they're just kind of moving down the list a little bit, but I still love them. So,
We have very similar
okay.
tastes because
Okay.
celebrities number one for me, especially the Edge
Mhm.
class.
Until a couple
Um,
of weeks from now. So,
that's right, that's right. And Virgin Voyages is quick. I've only been on Virgin
uh-huh.
once. I'm booked to go again, but that quickly has risen to the
Hmm.
top, and I fully expect, as you suggest, that Explorer is going to join. In fact, one of my upcoming podcast episodes, is going to be my just a kind of a fun episode. My
Hmm.
10 favorite
Uh-huh.
cruises. And and I actually had originally scheduled it for sometime in February. And then I found out that I'm going on Explorer.
Uh-huh.
And I said, I really would be fooling myself to do a top 10 without waiting until I go on Explorer.
Hmm.
And even then, I'm kind of reluctant because my next cruise after Explorer is Holland America's flagship,
Yeah, okay,
Rotterdam.
yeah. Uh-huh.
I suspect that might vie for a spot in my top
Mhm.
10, but I gotta
Yes.
do it. I can't keep pushing it off. So maybe I'll update it. I'll do my top 10 in April,
Uh-huh.
and then update it maybe next year sometime. Talk about your
Mhm.
brand. When did you start it? What motivated you to start it? Was it easy to come up with your name?
It I would say well, it took a little bit of thought because I decided to start vlogging in 2020, or do my first solo cruise vlog in 2020, which is when everything, went.
Shut down.
I did my sailing in February of 2020. It was a birthday cruise on the Carnival Magic. And I think March is when everything shut down. So um
Yep.
got that first vlog out, but by that time I did have my name already, and it was like I sat down and really thought about, okay, what do I want to focus on? And definitely solo cruising. And I wanted to talk about being an introvert. And then I thought my gluten-free experience was important because it was hard for me to find information on gluten-free cruising. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to focus on it, because if I'm looking for it, I know there are other people looking for it as well. So then I just took the acronyms for those and okay, how can I make this make sense? Okay, SIG. And that's how that came about. But that's when, yeah, so I did my first cruise vlog February 2020 and got those out, but everything shut down after that. So it's just like kind of just waiting to see. So when cruising came back up, hey, I jumped right in and just started doing, my cruise vlogs. But then I was just sharing, hey, this is me on vacation. This is, me eating. This is me, there was no focus on trying to provide information. I just wasn't there yet. Then
Okay.
as I continued to vlog, in the comments, people would ask questions. Well, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm just enjoying myself. So but that made me, focus on, okay, well, since I'm here, why not provide information for other people? Because, for so that they can, plan their own cruises. So then I started changing the focus to not just showing me on vacation, but hey, this is if you want to go on this ship, this is what you can expect. If you're looking for, quiet places, here's where you can go on this ship. So I started providing information and really looking at the questions that people were asking to kind of focus on those, when I was on my cruises. So it really wasn't until last year, 2024, well, end of 23 to 2024, that's when I really started changing it around to making it like a portal of information for other people. So now that's my focus now, and I'm actually booking my cruises now with that in mind. Okay, what are people asking about? What do they want to know? And if it's a ship that I'm interested in, then I'll go. I'll have my vacation, but I'll also provide them with the information that they want to know. So,
As I
yeah.
mentioned, we talked about being introverted and being gluten intolerant. Say something about the other big cornerstone of your channel, which is solo cruising. I'm
Mhm.
sure we have a great number of solo cruisers listening. Give us some nuggets from a solo cruising standpoint.
Well, I say what for solo cruising right now, I would say even looking at the news, they will tell you solo cruising and solo travel is growing fast. And that has been since the shutdown. When everything came back up, I think we're at a point where people are like, hey, I want to go on vacation. I want to see the world. I don't want to wait for somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
in order to do things. So there's a great number of people now, going out and going on vacation by themselves, whether it's land travel or solos or solo cruising. So so again, that's what I'm trying to provide to others as well. But as far as I guess nuggets, I would say for solo cruising, a lot of the cruise lines now are trying to they recognize this rise as well, and they want to cater to solo cruisers, as whether it's through solo cabins, whether it's through solo cruising programs. So a lot of the lines now, especially with the solo cruiser programs, they may either have solo meetups or they may have full programs where they have, a host who's guiding people through, different activities and get-togethers and dinners. Two lines that I have experienced that do this very well, of course, are NCL. NCL did it first, and they do it very well as far as like meeting other cruisers, the activities, dining together. They even have a solo lounge, for people who want to, cruise solo and have something to themselves. And Virgin Voyages, which is again my
Mm-hmm.
favorite of the two. That's going to be my favorite. But NCL does it very well, of course. Virgin Voyages, they not only focus on the solo cruiser, but they also focus on their brand, their ship, and get everyone involved, in the ship, what's happening around the ship, and the activities and the experience, especially like their whole Scarlet Night theme. So they give you, hints and tips on what to look out for, and where to be, things to be involved. So it's not only just, focusing on, getting together with the other people, is that plus immersing yourself in, the Virgin Voyages experience. So yeah.
For the aspiring solo cruisers who might be listening, talk a little bit about. I guess I've heard it referred to, and it might have different
Yes.
names, but the solo supplement, and that's a chance to get
Mhm.
back to go back to Explorer because
Mhm.
they have a pretty appealing solo
Yeah.
supplement. Am I using the right phraseology?
Yes.
Supplement? Yeah. Okay.
Solo supplement, single supplement. What it is on, well, standard fare, usually if you're booking a regular cabin, a solo cruiser has to pay double the fee, So it's like, and that's because cruise lines price the cabins based on two people. So if one person books that cabin, you still have to pay the price for the cabin, which is for two people. But some ships now will have either promotions or discounts, to where they will waive the single supplement, or they will have a reduced single supplement fee. So if it's reduced, let's say they have 25% single solo supplement. So you're paying your full fare for half the cabin, plus 25% of, like if there was a second person in the room. So basically that's 75% off. So that you may see 25%, 50%, solo supplement, or you may see no solo supplement, to where basically it's half price. The cabin is half price, or you're only paying for yourself as a solo sailor. Now, a solo cruiser. Well, there are cruise lines like Explora, who they run this promotion pretty often. So I would say, that's something to look out for. But Explora runs it. Virgin Voyages often, has reduced solo supplement or no solo supplement. So there are a few cruise lines that run this promotion, and those are great ways to, look out for those and find ways to, sell other ships for, for without paying, double occupancy, and that's a hard thing to get around. And one thing that I like to say and preach, now there are ships out there with solo cabins. But as a travel advisor, I always like to tell people, just because it's a solo cabin doesn't mean that it's the most affordable option for you. And that's what people assume. So I just encourage people to, if you're going to, look at a solo cabin, just price the regular cabin in that same category, and just compare the prices, because sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes it's even about the same, or it's only, like 5 or 2% difference, and you're paying for a smaller cabin, but almost the same price as you would a normal cabin. In some instances, it could be higher than the price of double occupancy. That's why I just tell people, just because it's a solo cabin doesn't mean that it's the most affordable option. So just do that comparison.
Now, at your channel, when you or on any of your platforms, when you're writing about something specific to solo travel, and you say that you get a lot of questions from your listeners or your viewers or readers, generally,
Mhm.
at least early on, as I got involved in content creation and being a cruising resource and so on, I kind of identified solo cruising with women. Do you get
Mhm.
much interaction with male solo travelers?
Some, but no, women by far the most. I would say 90% women and maybe 10%, men. There are men who solo cruise. There are men who that I seen that are solo cruisers. They may, have a vlog or post about it, or they're in, like online Facebook groups. But I would say there's a lot more women than men from what I see.
With
So
you today, and I've had someone, I'm pretty sure you know, Jen Danielle,
yes.
try
Uh-huh.
to represent the perspective of solo cruising, but it's been women. I was going to ask you, how can my listeners follow you on your various platforms, but you have kindly provided me some great contact information. So, listeners, I will make sure to put that in the show notes, all of the various online ways of reaching out. This solo cruising introvert gluten intolerant expert, because that's it's well worth your time to visit.
Oh, well, thank you.
Now, one question I have for you, Cheryl. Many content creators or influencers are doing group cruises. I know you have one or a couple coming up, and we'll chat about that. But have you gotten into that yet?
Yes, I actually did my first solo group cruise January 2024 on a Carnival Horizon. A group of us did the ABC itinerary on Carnival Horizon. And I actually started doing it. First of all, it's like once you're sharing experiences, you have others, especially solos who want to solo cruise for the first time. They may be a little hesitant. Some people are the biggest things are either they're afraid they will be alone and no one to talk to, or the biggest thing is dining alone. There are so many people who have a fear of dining alone, and they want to. Another thing is excursions. So they would feel comfortable, knowing somebody, on the ship, or, if they need somebody, somebody to connect to, they have somebody that they know, that's on the ship. So that's one reason why I started to, give in to doing, and I say give in because I had people asking all the time. And I was like, no, I don't want to do a group cruise, especially being an introvert. You're thinking, oh my God, no, I can't, I can't do that. But the interesting thing is that with solos, or people who want to solo, they're not looking for like a big group to hang around all the time. They are truly solos. So a lot of times they want to be on the ship and do their own thing. They still want to be independent, but they still some may want to have somebody to dine with, or others to dine with, or to go on excursions with, but they still want to explore and be by themselves, or don't want to be obligated to, a certain like schedule of things. So I did my first one in January of 2024. I planned three more just to give it a test if people are interested, in joining one of these. And I know when you put out a group cruise, everybody who wants to go, it might not be the perfect time, or, something like that. So I have three for 2026 different experiences. And
Wow,
yeah,
three.
yeah, there's my first one is on the Epic NCL Epic. That's January of 2020 26. That's a 7 day going to various Caribbean islands. There's an island each day, so it's port intensive. The next one is on Explorer 2. I was like, this is an experience. I enjoyed it so much, but I could just visualize and just see, a group of solos or a group of people who know each other, because they're still, even though the ship is entertaining and engaging, I could see a lot of opportunity where, people would come together and just sit and have conversation over, afternoon tea, over espressos, over a drink, over dinner or something like. It's just that gorgeous of a ship to where yes, I enjoy spending it alone, but I could also see a group of, solos also, enjoying the experience together. So I have that for April next year of 2026. And then the last one is actually a collaboration with the Jen Danielle and another solo cruiser, Carlene. So she has a channel, See It With C. So we're coming together for a group cruise on the Celebrity Reflection. We're all collaborating together, for a 4-day cruise. To Coco Cay and I think it's Nassau. And just to, a short little cruise for people who want to come out and solo cruise, but be with others. And that's the thing. I only prefer my preference for group cruises is a small group. I would be happy with anywhere from 5 to 10
Mm-hmm.
people. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not looking for like hundreds of people, on a group cruise, but five to 10 is a good number for me, but I would go up to like 20, but that would probably be my max, only because again, solo cruisers are independent. So even if I had 20, I know all 20 is they're not going to be looking to hang out or, looking for me to, hey, what we're doing next, so
When I share your contact information via the show notes, those who might be interested in your in attending or being a part of your solo cruises, what's the best? Should they just email you, or is there one best site to go of your sites? Is there one best place to go to get information about the solo cruises?
Yes, I do have them posted on my website at sigcruiser.com
Okay.
slash travel with Sig, but they can contact me. They can email me directly. Cheryl, that's Cheryl at travelwithsig.com. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, either one of those, my website, sigcruiser.com, or email me at Cheryl at travelwithsig.com.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. So let's talk about the future. What we just did kind of respect to group cruises, but in terms of your individual cruises, what do you have booked? Or do you have anything booked besides the group cruises?
Yes. Well, the next thing I have is Celebrity Excel. I'm on the inaugural sailing for that one. That's in November. And then after that, I have my group cruises, and then I also have some things that I haven't locked down yet, but I am in the process of locking down. So I'm not going to speak on those yet because a lot of things also I noticed that I stopped really forecasting or telling people when I'm going to cruise on a certain ship unless I'm 100% sure. Like I know I'm going to be on Celebrity Excel. I know I'm going to do the group cruises, but I've gotten to a point where I'm changing my mind a lot. So,
Okay.
even though I'm booked on something, I may change that, to something else. So, but yeah, definitely Celebrity Excel. I'm looking forward to that. I did the Celebrity Ascent on a 3-day sailing when it came out. And I absolutely love well, I did love Celebrity before that because I sailed the Summit, and that was one of their smaller ships, and I loved it. But the Ascent just blew me away. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to the
I went
Excel.
on Ascent at the end of 24. Beautiful ship.
Uh-huh.
Of course, I knew
Yes.
what to expect because I had gone on Celebrity Beyond before that. Yeah. So,
Okay.
what's on your cruising bucket list?
My cruising bucket list. Well, I will tell you, right now, I'm really trying to do that because in 27 is when I turn 60. So, so I'm looking for a cruise experience, a bucket list cruise experience, and I really want to do a cruise with like an Africa itinerary. So I'm looking for ships that have, different itineraries, for Africa. So that's really, my only, like big bucket list. But I do also want to like cruise, do like go to ports like somewhere in Japan or Singapore. Those are on my list as well. So
Have
yeah.
you been on a river cruise?
I have not been on a river cruise. I will say it's not that I would never do it, but it's like I just don't have like ooh, that's something that, that's on my list that I want to do. I am quite sure that I will try it out. And who knows that, whenever I try one out, I may get excited about it. But for me, cruising, to me, I really love to cruise, for the ocean.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
so that would be my concern. But I'm sure at some point I will try a river cruise.
Cheryl, thank you so much for coming on. Before we let you go, however, we usually ask our guests some light, or dare I say, fun cruise questions. Here's a few for you. What does Cheryl do in her me time?
This is going to be so boring. Cheryl works and edits.
In other words, Cheryl doesn't have any me time.
What? I mean, especially that. But the thing is, I enjoy what I do, but I keep saying, at least while I'm here in Florida, I need to get out more and like take my laptop to the beach and work from there because I totally can. So I'm going to try to do that more often so I can say, hey, Cheryl loves, going to the beach. So
We have some listeners who are saying, take your laptop to the beach. Just go to the beach. But you sound very much like me. I mean, I'm one of those people. One word I hear a lot in cruising is disconnect. Well, that might be fine for some people, but not for me.
right.
And this
Yeah.
is kind of maybe I shouldn't joke like this, but I jump overboard if I had to disconnect. I'm with you. Take your laptop to the beach.
Yes.
Okay. What's your, and I get a lot of good ideas from this one. What's your
Okay.
favorite cruise drink and cruise food?
This is going to be funny too because I would have to say if there was one cruise drink that I could get all the time, I would have to go back to Carnival. For some reason, Carnival Pirate Punch. That has been my go-to drink. Every time I get on Carnival, that's my first drink. And that's my favorite of all times. There are better drinks, I'm sure, handcrafted drinks, but I always go back to that Carnival Pirate Punch. And then
There you
food,
go.
food wise, again, I have to go to Carnival. Now, there are better food experiences that I've had, but I would say my favorite is Blue Iguana and Guy's Burgers. So those will always be, my fallback and always be favorites. Now, of course, I've had different, cuisines and like I said, even on Explore, the food is exquisite, but it's like your favorite of all time, that's always going to be like the old standbys, on Carnival.
Now, are you a specialty dining person?
Well, the thing is, I'm not a big foodie, so I enjoy food. But especially with being gluten intolerant, it's different from those who can eat anything because I'm going to be limited on what I can get. So if I go to specialty dining, I know that I'm going to get steak. I can get steak, salmon, and chicken, which is what I can get anywhere. So whereas of course somebody who isn't gluten intolerant, they're going to have more options. So that's why, like foodie and food experiences aren't really high on my list, for cruising. I am so excited when I come across cruise lines who do gluten-free very well. Celebrity is one of them, to where I enjoy their specialty dining experience. I went to Rooftop Grill and just had the best dinner ever. I would say on any cruise ship, but yeah.
Okay. What's your single most wonderful or memorable, funniest, or even most embarrassing cruise or port experience?
Oh, I would say, well, cruise experience, I would say two. Number one, of course, would be cruising with my mom on Carnival Horizon for Thanksgiving one year. And, my mom became a cruise addict too. So, but that was
Was that her first
that wasn't
cruise?
her first. Our first cruise was actually together, like I said, in 2001.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
but again, it was our first experience, so nobody knew what to expect, and it was nothing memorable. But yeah, so I mean, she had been cruising like with her church and everything. They've done cruises before, but it was great, to cruise with my mom for Thanksgiving, and that was on a Carnival Horizon in 2019. So that, and then the best memory was actually with with some of my vlogger friends when we did what ship were we? I think we were on the Carnival Celebration, the inaugural sailing for that, and we all went to Grand Turk together and just had, just the best time. That was like I and Grand Turk was one of my favorite ports. And I had been there several times, but that was the best time that I ever had, just hanging out, with some of my friends, even though I'm a solo cruiser. I enjoy being alone, but it was just a good fun time, So,
The last question, I call this an oddball question. Oddball only in that it's not necessarily cruise related. You have a large following, so let me say welcome to the SIG the Solo Cruiser fans and Cheryl's friends who are listening. We hope your fans and friends have enjoyed what they have heard at the Joy of Cruising podcast, and will come back for future episodes, or and follow us on Instagram or join our Facebook group. Cheryl, share one thing that my listeners and your fans and friends don't know about Cheryl.
one thing, I would say this is really hard. But what they probably don't know is that I used to have a love of motorcycle riding. So I used to ride motorcycles. I had a Kawasaki 600. I was in a I
Wow.
was in a motorcycle club. This was back in the day.
See, this is good stuff, because I would never have guessed that. I don't know why, but maybe just being an introvert, maybe there's a little sexism there being a woman, but this is good stuff. Go ahead.
I would say that's probably when I tell people that's probably the most shocking thing. They were like, "You?" But other things, it's like I'm one to I used to be a little risk taker, back in the day, but I also like learning new things and trying new things, gaining new skills. So like I used to be well, I kind of still do it a little bit, but I used to do voiceover. I kind of use that for my channel a little bit. Well, I was an author. I wrote 2 books in the past. I have 2 novels. So it's like I like to do, just different things all the time. So I'm always doing something different. So
Oh, can we find your novels?
yeah. So yes, my novels. I had 2 novels that I wrote back in the day. They are at Amazon. They will make great, ship reading for those who like to get on ships and read books. But I wrote under the name of Sherilyn Michaels, and my first book is called "Counting Raindrops Through a Stained Glass Window." And the second was called First Friday. So they're kind of, romance type novels. So yeah, yeah.
Romance type novels. Okay. Well, hopefully we can get you a reader or 2 or 3 or 5.
Okay, that would be nice.
Oh, I wanted to ask you now, do you still ride motorcycles?
No, I don't ride motorcycles today. I think once I moved to Georgia, once I moved to Georgia, I got rid of my motorcycle and I just never bought another one. And life got so busy that it's like I found some separation between that. I just never went back to it. I would love to ride again, but it's like that's a whole nother lifetime because I'm in an apartment now, nowhere to put it, things like that. And then I was told, I had a boss one time, he was like, especially when I moved here to Florida, he's like, no, don't ride a motorcycle here because people here drive crazy. Do not get on the road on a motorcycle here in Florida.
Sure, it has been great having this chat with you. Thank you so much for coming on the Joy Cruising podcast. I know we would like to have you back if you will be back. All the best to you and your channel in your future endeavors. And as I like to say, we'll see you on the ocean.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I would love to come back and chat with you again. I especially want to hear about your experience on Explore. So I'm waiting to hear for that.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again for $18.99 can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.